Pray with me, family. God, I need you in this moment, this hour. Forgive me for all of my sins. Lord, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Oh, Lord, our strength and redeemer. Let these words come crystal clear. In Jesus' name, amen. My brothers and sisters, one thing I like about our virtual time together, in particular, the preaching moment, is that it really just allows me to focus on what I'm saying to you, because oftentimes it's just me and a camera really just trying to dictate that which what the Lord is saying. And so today I want us to really put our consumption hats on. And what I mean by that, be ready to be consumed by what God has to say today in this lesson. I want you to grab your Bibles. We're going to go back to 1 Corinthians chapter 15. 1 Corinthians chapter 15. We're going to go back to that. And then we're going to work our way through this. I'm going to, I prepared this in one way, but I'm asking the Lord to do what God's going to do in this moment, whether it's teaching, preaching, however the Lord see fit. I want the Lord to work. But I want to kind of prepare this teaching to let you know that my aim is to engage you, my brothers and sisters, in a deep place today. I want to engage you in a deep place. So I want you to, if there's folk around you that's going to distract you, this is not a time to be cooking eggs and cooking bacon for the kids. Stop all that. Stop all that. I need you to sit down, get to a place. If you're driving and you don't have to get to a necessary destination, why don't you pull on the side of the road and give me about 30 minutes of your time, and the Lord 30 minutes of your time as we deal with this lesson. Amen. Let's jump right into it. So my brothers and sisters, last week we were challenged in the teaching moment with this idea of staying on the track. Staying on the track, not staying on track, but staying on the track, using that idea of track to relate back to our theme for 2021, which is run. And so we dealt with this idea of staying on the track, embracing, my brothers and sisters, this notion to be firm within our positioning to conquer. That was the premise of the lesson, that I would encourage you through the teaching to be firm and stay firm within your positioning to conquer. In other words, I'm assuming that you have a goal, or it is on your agenda that you will be conquerors. In fact, the text written and inspired by the writer said to the church of the first century, and even to us now, I believe it translates that we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. And so I pray that that is your journey, that is your goal to conquer. And so as we walk through that lesson on last week, my brothers and sisters, I thought I was done, and on Monday and Tuesday, when I usually shift mentally and spiritually to prepare for our next teaching, or maybe even if it's a series that God put in my heart, I was compelled and overwhelmed by this thought. And that is, my brothers and sisters, if the people are going to readily affix themselves to stay on the track, then the reasonable inquiry in the form of an unexpected sequel would be, get this now, how bad do you want it? And so all I'm trying to say, my brothers and sisters, we preached this or taught this lesson on stay on the track. And then as I thought that it was over, we have an unexpected sequel to this teaching. And it comes in form of a question, an inquiry. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? And so for our time together, I want to lay my pillow and allow us to rest our homiletical heads on that in form of a topic question. How bad do you want it? So I'm telling you to stay on the track, to affix yourself with the position to conquer, but I want to come back as a sequel and ask you, how bad do you want it? And so as we journey back to 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 58, we discovered, just a little context for those who may have missed the lesson last week, we discovered our writer, the Apostle Paul, makes a valiant attempt to keep the faith community on the track as pertaining to their eschatology. We learned that last week eschatology is the study of the end times. And so they had a position on what the end time would be like, more specifically being the resurrection of the believers. And so my brothers and sisters, as they were undergoing concretizing and being firm in their position, they were challenged by alternative thinkers, my brothers and sisters, and perhaps the idea to succumb became imminent because Paul writes this letter to them. And so my brothers and sisters, with that being in mind, where I ended last week is really where I want to pick up today and run, no pun intended, that we may be able to gain some plausible insight in terms of our journey. Last week I ended in this very, very significant place called confidence. Yeah. I ended in this significant place called confidence. Because my brothers and sisters, it has become abundantly clear to me as I deal with the believers. And understand this now, I am one who works in many sectors occupationally, but when I deal with the believers, it seems as though out of all the spaces that I ingratiate myself in from an occupational and consulting perspective and call perspective, it seems to me that it is the believers, the body of believers who seem to overtly have the least confidence. And it always bothers me on how we can serve a God so big but have a confidence so little. I'm going to say it again. It kind of bothers me and makes me wonder and ponder on how can we serve a God so big but yet have a confidence that is so little. Or even if our confidence is not little, that our confidence is often shook at the very impotence of turmoil, at the very impetus of trials, meaning that when something comes in our life that is a alternative force than what we were trying to go, it seems like we succumb to the negativity because we are lacking that boldness, that confidence, that security to keep pushing forward. And so as I wanted to move past this, I clearly heard God say, you got to deal with this thing called confidence. You got to ask them, now that you've set the tone for them to stay on the track, you got to ask them, how bad do you want it? How bad do they want it? And in the process of trying to gain a virtual answer to my inquisition of how bad do you want it, I must put ourselves into a space that we have to get in if we're going to accomplish anything, and that's a space of confidence. The reason why I must do that, because I want to give you something right here, and this is something worth putting in the chat. Here it is. Your confidence is a key indicator of how bad you want it. Help me out here. I'm going to give you time. Somebody put that in the chat. Your confidence is a key indicator of how bad you want it. I'm going to say it one more time. Your confidence is a key indicator of how bad you want it. You don't have to say much to me about what you want to become and who you are and the phenomenal goals that you have set to accomplish and your vigor and tenacity and dedication to achieve, experience, and realize those things. The thing that I'm looking at mostly is not your words. I'm not listening for your words, but I'm looking at you. I'm looking for the confidence. I look right in your eye. I look right within the spirit to see that you have confidence, and at the very revelation and discernment of that which I extract from your confidence, I can tell if you're ready to proceed forward. And my brothers and sisters, I know if I'm just a little measly old preacher from the south side, or preaching on the south side rather, my brothers and sisters, and I can ascertain and discern that from based off of your confidence level. I know God, who's much bigger than me. In fact, let me not even try to put myself in the same sentence with God, has the sentiment, has the ideology, has the spiritual understanding, my brothers and sisters, that if they don't have the confidence, they cannot conquer to their fullest potential. That if they don't have the confidence, they cannot conquer to their fullest potential. No wonder we've been left behind. No wonder we've been stagnant. No wonder why our life has been stale. No wonder why it seems like there's no forward motion. No wonder why it seems like the brakes have really, literally stalled. It is because perhaps we do not align our confidence with our desire. The greater the desire, the more responsible you are for confidence. And here's the reality. The reason why many of us have received little is because that's what our confidence has dictated that we should receive. See, if you want big things, you got to have big confidence. If you want to have expansiveness in your acquisition, then you need to have big confidence as your position. In other words, my acquisition must line up with my position. In other words, where I stand from a confidence, where I position myself in confidence, that is the indicator of what I'm ready to acquire, what I'm ready to receive. And so I ask you, my brothers and sisters, again, how bad do you want it? Let's go to 1 Corinthians 15. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 15. Let's go back and let's deal with the latter part of the verse. Look what Paul says. Paul says, because you know that in the Lord your labor is not in vain. So as a reminder to some and introduction to others, we dealt with this thing called labor, and we learned that last week labor refers to pain. And so here Paul tells the community, as he's trying to affix them on their journey, he tells them that your labor, that your pain will not be in vain. And although we dealt with this understanding of labor meaning pain, we did not really dig into the depth of this understanding of vain. And we have to really, to get to where I'm trying to get you to go to today and answer the question of how bad do you want it, we have to now deal with vain. Pain comes from labor. Labor means pain. And so Paul says that your labor, that your pain is not in vain. But get this now, vain, the understanding, the connotation of vain from the Greek renders us this thought. It means, my brothers and sisters, to come up empty or to be rendered empty. And so Paul tells the faith community that if you're going to stay on track of fixed in your positioning, your labor, your pain will not render you empty. It is a element of prophetic exhortation. Exhortation means to encourage. Prophetic means to speak forth that which appears to be the truth, that which speaks futuristically, that your pain, that your labor will not be in vain. And so Paul says, here's the result of your ability to stay affixed. If I stay affixed, if you stay affixed, it may cause some pain on the journey. You may have tension. You may have dissension in thought and ideology of those who are trying to push you away from what God has called you to become. But he says, if you stay faithful, that your pain will not render you empty. It is not to say that you do not have pain or that you would not have pain, because Paul would have been very disingenuous. In fact, he would have been flat out lying if you tell humanity that they'll never experience pain. And my brothers and sisters, I stay in that same sentiment today. I wish I could tell you that on your walk, on your journey, in your relationship with God, that you will never experience pain. But I don't want to mislead you, because there are some people who are looking at me today who say, Pastor, I understand your energy. I understand your mission of preaching. I understand that you're asking me how bad do I want it, but I can't really get to a place where I consume that question, that I may be able to regurgitate a plausible response, because I'm in pain. And so, my brothers and sisters, I want you to think of it like this. One of the greatest senses that stifles progression is emptiness. That when I am sensing an element of emptiness and end up in a space of feeling empty, I can try to mask it all day long. I can try to act like it's not my reality. But when I am empty, my brothers and sisters, the car that drives me to production pulls over to the figurative side of the road and stalls out, and I never get to what I'm trying to get to, because the petroleum of victory is obsolete, and the only thing that I'm experiencing is pain. I don't want to minimize this moment with excitement and enthusiasm, because I come today to speak to that place. That place of pain that has you feeling empty. Let me ask you like this, and I want you to think about this. You with me? Here we go. Here's the question. What are the pain spots in your life that has rendered you empty? What are the pain spots in your life that has rendered you empty? Now, here's the problem. Here's the problem. As I ask you that, here's the problem, because I feel it, I sense it, I know it's there. Here's the problem. Many of us will miss the moment of healing that God is trying to present to us in this time, because we have affixed ourselves with trying to be a superhero. Even though you're not in the presence of the believers today, you at home, you're driving, you're somewhere, perhaps all by yourself, and you still trying to be a superhero and act like you ain't got no pain, or act like you have never experienced pain. But my brothers and sisters, if you continue to disregard the validity of my inquisition, you will always remain broken. So I ask you to allow the integrity to ooze out of you, and to calm yourself down of trying to be bigger than what you are in this moment, and ask the question that I'm asking you, or answer the question I'm asking you, and that is, what are the pain spots in your life that has you rendered, or has rendered you empty? I want you to think about that, because if you misdiagnose your space and place, we cannot prescribe the appropriate medicine to clear the dis-ease of emptiness. Because emptiness is a place that breeds dis-ease. And so for the third time, I ask you, what are the pain spots in your life that has rendered you empty? It is your time and your moment to be vulnerable. Lose the superhero narrow imagination, my brothers and sisters, and strip yourself to the core and answer the question right where you are as you think mentally, what in my life that has pained me so much that my vigor does not align with my vision. Oh, that means I have a vision to conquer. I have a vision to move forward, but my vigor, that energy that I need, is not aligning. My vision is big, but my vigor is low, and I cannot answer the question in the affirmative of how bad do I want it and progress forward because I have not been literally sat down and dealt with my pain that is causing this feeling of emptiness. I sit here before you as a preacher of over 20 years to say that there has been times when I had to preach and I was empty. There are times when I had to teach and I was empty. There are times that I had to work. I had to be a father. I had to be all these things when I'm empty. And I found myself being a taskmaster. And that's it. And many of us have a false sense of reality because we become professional in finishing tasks. But God has called you to be more than a taskmaster or be more than being task-oriented, because being task-oriented does not mean that you're in purpose. That means that you're just doing things because you have to do them. But to be in purpose means that I'm doing things that I was called to do. Because if I'm not doing things that I was called to do, then I'm in a space of ineffectiveness ultimately, and it's probably because I'm empty. Because the enemy wants to hit you in a place of your purpose that will allow you to understand that you're not fulfilling it because you're living out of emptiness. And so if you want it badly, you need fuel. You need fuel. You need fuel, my brothers and sisters. You need fuel. And today I declare of the power and authority of the Most High God that you've arrived to the filling station. But I need you to be honest with me. As I ask you for the fourth time, what are the pain spots in your life that has rendered you empty? You got them yet? Oh, we're going to work today. We're going to work today. I need you to stay with me. We're going to work today. We're going to work today. Because now that which I process in my mind, I can work out in my actions. But if I don't allow my mind to process it, then my actions cannot move to its highest order. So, out of my pain, I'm in a place of emptiness. And that place of emptiness and brokenness is something that has been authorized and ordained by the enemy. You must understand that God and the enemy works in the spiritual realm. The spiritual realm is something that is not humanistically inclined to discover. And so while God is working in the spiritual realm to bring you into a place of victory, the enemy is also working in the spiritual realm to keep you in a place of defeat. And so there's constant tension in the spiritual realm. That's where we get this understanding of spiritual warfare, that I fight for the good while dismissing the bad. But here's the enemy's mistake. The enemy's mistake is that she wanted your pain to render you so empty that you would stay in a dark place, a dismal place, an unproductive place. But I come under the power and authority of God to break that cycle and to break that perspective and that perception. And I encourage you with every fabric of your being, as you have mentally processed that which have you bound, that pain place that have you empty. I want you to rebut it and retort it with this understanding, with all of your might and confidence, to understand that I must realize myself in this space and this inquisition and this question. That is, how bad do I want it? Do I want it bad enough to move out of my pain? Do I want it bad enough to allow myself to be restored? Do I want it bad enough to allow myself to be refueled? Be better. There's a well that has been created from your pain. Your pain has produced a well. Your pain, my brothers and sisters, have produced a well. And my brothers and sisters, because your pain has produced a well, this is what I want you to move forward with me in this thought, that I must now use my pain as a premier well to draw from on my way to victory. In other words, could it be, we just talking, stay with me. I told you last week, Dr. Matthew Stevenson from All Nation Worship Assembly used this phrase most frequently, and he says, I know you want me to turn my plow, but I'm not. And there's some people who are being challenged in the spirit who wants me to turn my plow, but no, I want to get into your pain. I want to get into your well of discomfort. I want to get into some uncomfortable places in your life. I want to get into those uncomfortable spaces that you ain't so comfortable with talking about. Those things that you try to brush over, but you cannot brush over your pain. You cannot brush over your emptiness, because it will show up in your actions, whether you talk about it or not, whether you deal with it or not. So since it will show up and keep me from progressing, isn't it perfect time now for me to deal with it? How bad do you want it? And so my pain is figuratively a well. A well is an open space that can be bottomless or have a bottom. And so now I'm asking you to jump into your well of pain. And draw from it. But what you're used to drawing from, or what you're used to drawing when you draw from your well of pain, is hopelessness, frailty, insignificance, instability, poverty, lack of purpose, disgust, ills and ailments. Because the enemy has taught you that your pain is supposed to keep you dark. But God is telling us that our pain created us a well to draw from that will push us to victory. And so, Pastor, tell me how can I draw from my well of pain in efforts to achieve victory? I will tell you, but I need you to make a virtual pact with me that you will keep in mind the question of the day. How bad do you want it? Because if you want it bad, my brothers and sisters, that pain is about to shift. Oh my shata! I said that pain is about to shift. If you really want it bad, if you really want it, if you really want it, I decree and I declare that that pain is about to shift. Tell me, how can I draw from that well of pain? Can I tell you? Number one, I can draw by allowing it to force me into realizing my strength. Number one, you need to realize your strength. My pain in place of emptiness, if we dissect it correctly, appropriately, and intentionally, we will find that it's in that space that indicated our greatest strength. But here's the problem. Folks have told you, circumstances have taught you, and you have even convinced yourself that you are a weak person. Nah, don't count me out saying, I don't think I'm weak. No, you may not have said it, but your actions, your mannerisms, your way of doing things, your pragmatism has told me, my brothers and sisters, that you have convinced yourself and circumstances have encouraged you to believe that you are weak. But I got a different perspective for you. After what you have been through, after what you have experienced, and the fact that you're still here, given an opportunity to talk about it, or even think about it, or even grow from it, really tells the story of how strong you are. Your pain and your unwillingness to succumb totally to it, to just lay down and die, whether it's literally or figuratively, shows yourself and the world how strong you are. And the enemy wants you to believe that you are weak because of what you went through. The enemy wants you to believe that you are nobody because of what you experienced. The enemy wants you to stay in this dark, dark place. But God's saying, no, draw from that well of pain and realize that it did not kill you. It almost did. It could have almost took you out. It almost put you in a place, in a space that is so uncomfortable. In fact, some of us can't even talk about it yet, but you are still here. And so I want you to think about the very fact that you're still here is indicative of how strong you are. My brother, my sister, daughter, son, brother, cousin, whatever you consider yourself to me, I want to let you know you are stronger than what you thought. You must realize it. You are stronger than what you thought, because there are some people who would not have made it a second after experiencing what you went through. There are some people who would have thrown in the towel and left the towel without washing it again in the laundry of spirituality. But you are still here. You're looking at me. You're on this virtual broadcast. You're looking at the replay, and I'm here to tell you and encourage you that you are stronger than what you thought. But it's that pain, that place of emptiness, that makes you realize your strength. How can I answer the question in the affirmative, how bad do I want it? I must realize my strength. Secondly, I must reimagine myself. You must reimagine yourself. Oh yeah, pain will do it to you. Pain will put you in a place that will make you reimagine yourself. You know how? Because your pain indicates a place where you don't want to be. But it also allows you to reimagine a space of where you could be. I'm going to say that again. Your pain indicates a place where you don't want to be. But it also allows you to reimagine a space of where you could be. And so I ask you, my brothers and sisters, where do you want to be? Where do you want to grow from the pain and emptiness that you have experienced? Because your labor, your pain is not in vain. It is not designed to render you empty, although at times you feel empty. So I ask you, my brothers and sisters, where do you want to be? Because there's better than where you are. There's more than where you are. There is greater than where you are. There is more sufficiency than where you've been. Eyes have not seen. Ears have not heard. Neither has it entered into the hearts of humanity what God is about to do concerning those who love God. And so my pain allows me to reimagine myself, because my current condition of pain and emptiness, or even the past, my current condition when I was in pain and empty, I know that's not where I want to be. And so now, since I know that's not where I want to be, or I knew that that's not where I wanted to be when I was there, now I can start thinking, or I've thought about those places and spaces on where I could be. Your greatest level of freedom is in your imagination. You can imagine and reimagine the world. You can imagine or reimagine a place that's greater, deeper, and more succinctly successful than the place that you are and that you have been. I'm drawing from that well of pain that I might get to my victory by realizing my strength, reimagining myself, and then finally remembering your struggle. Your pain encourages you to remember your struggle. Now, many people say, Pastor, I don't really want to remember the painful spots in my life. And I'm with you. But work with me here as I get ready to close. You're not remembering it to stay in it. You're not even remembering as an emotional trigger. I'm talking about the type of remembrance that comes post-healing. Get this now. Because your pain often aligns with your struggle. When I'm in pain, it's a struggle. However, to keep you getting too full of yourself, when the sauce start cooking in your favor and flavor, what you've been through versus where you're going and where you're going to be will always serve as a reminder to keep you humble. And so we experience pain sometimes that when we're delivered from it, it keeps us humble because we don't want to go back. the doors that God is about to open for you will welcome arrogance, but I'm speaking humility, because the best is yet to come. And I conclude by asking you, how bad do you want it?